I would say, projects of national importance that in Canada, helped really shape the histories of the country. So that's the type of shot we're trying to take here. But we've got a very strong resource base at 167 million silver equivalent ounces to start, and open from there. So what we're going to do this summer is, well, actually before this summer, and what we're doing right now is we're updating that resource estimate just based on some drilling that's been done over the last few years and some very extensive geological modeling that we've done in-house, that we now have the expertise to do. We're going to have a 7,000 meter program, maybe just to start if we're successful, where we test for the extension of the entire historic Tonopah mine district. And if we can find it, the size of the prize is potentially very large, because this is a district that over 4 kilometers, so it's approaching 250 million silver equivalent ounces. We're not stopping there. We have 55 million Canadian dollars in the bank that we're ready to deploy and are deploying this year into materially changing the resource base, trying to make new discoveries, stepping out, and we're really excited to be able to do that. Well, it's been a wild month or two or something like that, where we've seen the price move up to 120, which was, not something that I think any of us thought would happen so quickly, and then pulling back to a little over $70, and I think today it's just over 80.
Yeah.
I mean, that type of volatility is a hallmark of a bull market, and I think if we go back to the bull markets of the past, we see that those types of pullbacks actually have happened. I don't want to say regularly, because I feel like there was a Friday a couple weeks ago that was just a very rare day to the downside, but just a very, very rare day, because we really did get going so much so fast. I remember being at, I think it was Christmas dinner, and looking at the futures price in Asia and going, oh, when these markets open tomorrow, things are going to get crazy, and they certainly did. So it's been a wild ride. Personally, I'm strapped in for it for the duration. Yeah. But one thing that I keep coming back to is that, I look at the price of silver in Shanghai, because that's become almost mainstream now. We're seeing that on X all the time and on all social medias. And it just really does seem to be leading what we're seeing here in North America, both in the futures and in the spot price. And it just screams of this disconnect between East and West. And where do we have these abundance of paper contracts where there's, hundreds of paper contracts out for every ounce of silver in registered vaults? Well, it's here in the East. So, I mean, let's make of that what we can, but, that's just something that I find interesting.
Unlike previous market rallies driven mainly by trading speculation, today's silver surge appears heavily influenced by real physical demand. Countries like China and India have significantly increased their purchases, reshaping global supply chains. Meanwhile, Western markets still rely heavily on derivative contracts representing silver, rather than physical metal. This growing imbalance highlights a potential disconnect between paper trading systems and actual supply availability. Recent reports show increasing industrial demand driven by solar energy expansion, electronics manufacturing, and electric vehicle production, further tightening supply and reinforcing silver's growing importance within the global resource economy.
It just goes back to the fact that, well, first of all, I'm a geologist. I've always been exploring for precious metals, generally for gold and silver, but also for uranium and copper and zinc and other things a little bit too, but very passionate about gold and silver. And, I've always known that good silver projects are really hard to find. Therefore, they're valuable. And good silver projects in a place like the United States, where property rights matters, put it that way, are even more difficult to find. So I can probably count the projects that would fit that, would check that box for me in the United States on, if not one hand, then almost one hand. And we've got 3 of them. So we've been fortunate to have worked through the hard times and now are in a position to really add value to these projects. So let me start with the project in Alaska. It's called the Red Mountain Project. It's about 60 miles south of Fairbanks. It covers something like 40 miles of a belt of good rocks that can host these types of high-grade deposits that we're after. And then in Alaska, it's very much a critical mineral mix with a lot of silver in play, where there's silver, there's zinc, there's lead, there's a little bit of antimony, there's a little bit of gallium, there's a little bit of indium, there's a little bit of tin even. The only thing in the deposit that's not a critical mineral is gold. So I figure if there's one to have, it's that. In total, if I combine them all, and just to keep it very simple, in terms of silver equivalent ounces, there's something like 167 million silver equivalent ounces in the deposit so far. But I would say that the property is probably less than 5% explored, to put it conservatively. There's dozens and dozens of high-grade showings at surface that either haven't been drilled or where they are drilled. It looks like, just in my professional opinion, the makings of what could be discoveries. And then I know about that the way that these deposits form. What we know just from years of exploration as an industry is that these types of deposits usually form in clusters, and when they get to be really good, you have, I would say, projects of national importance that in Canada, helped really shape the histories of the country. So that's the type of shot we're trying to take here. But we've got a very strong resource base at 167 million silver equivalent ounces to start, and open from there. So what we're going to do this summer is, well, actually before this summer, and what we're doing right now is we're updating that resource estimate just based on some drilling that's been done over the last few years and some very extensive geological modeling that we've done in-house, that we now have the expertise to do.
While demand continues accelerating, new silver production faces major limitations. Developing mining projects often requires years of environmental reviews, infrastructure development, and regulatory approval, especially in developed economies. Industry experts suggest meaningful increases in global silver output may not occur until the next decade. This delay creates pressure on existing reserves and exploration efforts. Additionally, refining capacity remains heavily concentrated in Asia, raising concerns about domestic resource security in Western nations. Governments and investors are now treating silver as a strategic mineral due to its essential role in renewable energy systems and emerging technologies.
And we're on the eastern half of the Tonopah mining district and its extensions. It was a prolific producer between around 1900 and around a little bit before 1950, but hadn't really seen much or any modern exploration on our project before we started working on it in 2020. So through the desert, I'll call it, through the tough times, we drilled out a 44 million silver equivalent ounce resource. That's just silver and gold, and about say 60% of the value is silver. Mm-hmm. And we also, when I first went down there, I saw that the extension of the district to the east was open for claim staking. So I staked it on behalf of the company. And then subsequently, over the last few years, we've just kind of chipped away on exploration holes out there, and all but one of them have hit. The best one being 3 meters of 1,450 grams per ton silver equivalent. Wow. So what we're going to do here starting in March, we're going to have a 7,000 meter program, maybe just to start if we're successful, where we test for the extension of the entire historic Tonopah mining district. And if we can find it, the size of the prize is potentially very large, because this is a district that over 4 kilometers, between what was mined in the past, between what we've drilled and what a neighbor of ours has drilled, is 500 million silver equivalent ounces over 4 kilometers. Wow. Well, we have a 4 kilometer extension where our exploration holes, all but one is hit. But what we haven't found yet is the main structure, the main vein, the big vein, the Veta Madre. If we can find that, then, hopefully we're onto something, and then we'll see what happens. But that's the goal for this program coming up in March, and that's the main question we're trying to answer.
To address supply shortages, exploration companies are aggressively searching for new deposits. Modern geological modeling, advanced drilling technology, and improved data analysis have transformed mineral discovery. Several large-scale exploration projects in the United States demonstrate the potential for substantial new silver resources. These projects often include additional critical minerals such as zinc, copper, and rare industrial metals. Early resource estimates suggest hundreds of millions of silver equivalent ounces remain untapped. Such discoveries could reshape future supply chains, especially as governments prioritize domestic mineral development to reduce reliance on foreign production.
The original maps from the USGS from 1911, the geological maps, are extremely accurate, where we can be drilling a hole that might be 1,000 feet and hit a contact that a guy in 1911 projected within like 4 meters or something like that. But then say within like 10 feet or something like that, which is great. But those guys, they also didn't have the same technology that we have now to do exploration. They had the ideas, but they didn't have the drilling technology. They didn't have the 3D modeling software that we have now that just speeds up the visualization process greatly. And when we first started working on this project, we did such extensive geological modeling from 1,500 old maps that we put into the software, and immediately came up with drill targets, not with AI, just with human intelligence, right, and started hitting right away. But the other thing that's interesting here on this project is that there's a 2.74 million silver equivalent ounce resource in mine tailings. So it's basically crushed up sand in the desert on private property, probably 500 feet off of US Highway 95. That at $35 silver, it's probably a break-even operation, like we were a year ago. But at $80 silver, we think it could look very, very, very good. We think it could be produced quickly. But before we start talking about that, we have to do the legwork. So we're starting the metallurgical work now. Historically, it was 80%. Mm-hmm. That's when Howard Hughes's people were working on it in the 1970s. So we're going to take a modern approach to metallurgy and potentially reprocessing that. Starting now and working through it very quickly, but I'm personally pretty excited about that.
Modern mining companies are also revisiting historic mining districts using advanced technologies unavailable to earlier generations. By analyzing old geological maps, digitizing legacy data, and applying 3D modeling, researchers are identifying previously overlooked mineral zones. Additionally, reprocessing historical mine waste, known as tailings, has become increasingly viable due to higher silver prices and improved extraction methods. These innovations allow companies to recover valuable metals from previously discarded materials, reducing costs and environmental impact while generating new revenue opportunities. Such technological advancements are reshaping how mining companies approach resource development and sustainability.
And to put that into perspective, I was just down there last week with some geologists and visiting the geologists that were doing the drilling there. And we did a little property tour, and I was up on the north end of the project. That's maybe, I want to say 3 or 4 miles from where we're drilling. Mm-hmm. And you can walk out the same vein that we've drilled at surface. It has great smoke in it, no fire, but great smoke. And it's not drilled. And you just, if that was in Mexico or in Nevada, it would have been pinned with drill holes 50 years ago. Mm-hmm. So in that sense, it's a very rare and unique and I think valuable opportunity. To start there, we've got 32 million ounces drilled out over several programs, mm-hmm. but that's probably on, again, less than 5% of the veins on the project. Definitely much less than 5%. So it's just, it's the potential there is very strong.
Yeah. And you said it was, if not the best, you think potentially one of the best vein fields in the United States left right now. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Wow. Yeah. And very little exploration, correct?
Yeah, very little exploration, almost none. Most of the vein field is unexplored.
Until Silver 47 and Galen showed up, correct?
And the team, definitely.
And the team. Yeah, definitely the team. So thank you for giving us kind of a great synopsis of all three of those projects. I know it's a lot of information and there's a lot going on. If we look at the big picture numbers, if you add it all together, you talked about the number of silver equivalent ounces in the ground. What's the grand total with all three of the projects together?
Yeah, that's it. It's 247 million silver equivalent ounces grand total. Actually, it's 237 inferred and another 10 indicated. But so it's approaching 250 million silver equivalent ounces. We're not stopping there. We have 55 million Canadian dollars in the bank that we're ready to deploy and are deploying this year into materially changing the resource base, trying to make new discoveries, stepping out. And we're really excited to be able to do that.
Looking ahead, many analysts believe silver could play a critical role in the global transition toward renewable energy and advanced electronics. With expanding solar panel production, electric vehicle manufacturing, and digital infrastructure growth, demand is expected to increase significantly. However, limited exploration during past decades has created supply bottlenecks that may take years to resolve. Investors, governments, and industry leaders are now closely monitoring silver's long-term potential. As geopolitical tensions and economic uncertainties continue influencing resource markets, silver may emerge as one of the most strategically valuable commodities of the coming decade.